How can men navigate dealing with modern women in a female-focused society and culture? Are you a man who is struggling with navigating modern women in a society and culture that is almost exclusively female-focused? Are you trying to navigate the risk of modern women to include dating, marriage, divorce, child custody, child support, parental alienation, and possibly starting over again after being destroyed by a so-called family court system? You're not alone, and this channel will be for you. Welcome to Resilient Man. My hope is to create a channel to discuss the serious issues that men struggle with in our society and culture every single day in this country. I hope it can be an encouragement to you and even help you to navigate through the challenges that you may be going through as a man in our society, to go on, overcome these challenges, and actually thrive in your life. I decided to start Resilient Man channel to share my experiences and help other men who may be faced with challenges of navigating the culture and society that is completely anti-man and sees us as disposable, quite frankly. We live in a society and a culture where men are seen as tools, mainly for our financial resources, and we're seen as disposable by a lot of women and the court systems, the so-called family court system. A lot of women nowadays are hypergamous and seek to monkey branch, to level up, to seek to find the best possible man that they can find that will best benefit them financially. Now that's nothing new. I mean, that's been happening since the beginning of time, but now it's reached an all-time dangerous level, shall we say, just because of what it's done to our society and our culture and the relationships between a woman and a man, and how hard it is for a man these days to actually bond with a woman. Now, I do want to state that Resilient Man channel is not about women hating, and we are not anti-woman. We simply want to recognize and discuss the challenges, that the real issues that men are dealing with in our society and how men are treated in our societies these days. In times past, you would date a nice girl and you would court her for a determined amount of time, up to you. And at some point you would decide, yeah, this is the girl that I want to marry, and you would propose marriage. You then settle down and raise a family together. It was understood and expected culturally and such, for the most part, that this would be a lifelong commitment, and most women had that mindset. That's exactly what they were looking for. They wanted to bond with one man and produce children and produce a legacy of that family. We now live in an age where modern feminism and culture has told women they don't need a man. They don't need a man at all. You have your own job, you have all your own resources, and you're fine just as you are, which is why we're in the position we are at, where men have become disposable. And we see it in our society now. A lot of men, especially younger men, are checking out and saying, no, thank you. A lot of men are to be used and then disposed of by women when they do not quote unquote feel it anymore, when the man no longer quote unquote meets their emotional needs or whatever needs they conjure up. And that's why today the statistics show 80% of all divorces are being initiated and filed by women. And this is a real problem. This is a real problem. How is the modern man supposed to find a decent woman when so many of them are juggling multiple men? I mean, primarily they're focused on their careers, and they believe they can put off childbearing until their 30s or even their 40s, which is absolutely ridiculous. We all know that the stats show once you get to 30, your childbearing benefits or biology, if you will, your biological time clock really dramatically reduces. And then especially at 35 and especially, 40s are getting into some high risk births. So it's absolutely ridiculous. But see, modern feminism has told them, hey, chase your career, chase the almighty dollar, and don't worry about finding a man to build a life with. You can do that later, or you can just, hook up and have a baby and end up taking the man for child support and such through the family court system that is biased towards you anyways. So these women, they call themselves strong and independent women. And yet, a lot of times, their financial strength actually comes from other sources, such as child support and alimony, and of course, the state subsidies that they get. And so, the state, the government, has, in modern feminism and stuff, and the culture through Hollywood and everything else, the social media and such, has told them, look, you don't need a man. You don't need to go the traditional route and be a wife and a mother and love and accept that role for the extreme importance that it really does have in our world. No, they're told that that's a waste of your life. And actually that's the patriarchy telling you what you should do. And that's the patriarchy holding you back. It's truly sad. It's truly sad. Accountability with women in our culture is almost non-existent. If you ask a lot of women these days, why'd you make this decision? If you try to hold them accountable for almost anything, you're called a misogynist, you're part of the patriarchy, how dare you judge me? Just ask a single mother any questions that hold them accountable, and you'll get an angry response. So you hooked up with Chad Thunderstroke knowing he was not going to commit to a relationship with you, and you ended up pregnant with his child, unmarried, child out of wedlock. Now you're a single mother. Why did you do that? How dare you? How dare you judge me? I'm a strong, independent woman. I can do whatever I damn well please. And that's what they do. So, you say your husband was a decent guy and he treated you fairly well. He provided for you and your children and he met the needs of the home. But you decided you could do better. And he just wasn't meeting your needs emotionally. So you left the marriage and filed for divorce, like upwards of 80% of women are doing now. They're taking the initiative in filing for divorce. You filed for divorce from this decent man because he, quote unquote, wasn't meeting your needs anymore for whatever reason. You can, take it out of the laundry list. And you take his children, which is court sanctioned. You take his children and you return to the single life only to find that you should have stayed in your marriage because now you're out there in the single life. And of course, Chad Thunderstroke, he'll gladly hook up with you. He'll gladly take you home and rearrange your insides for the evening or keep you as a side piece, as a little play toy. And then he tosses you aside because he's never going to commit with you. He's never going to. And these women go through this cycle over and over and over through their 40s and into their 50s and sometimes even beyond until they hit, we all know it, the wall. And they don't believe in the wall. They don't think it's a real thing. They live in this fantasy world that they're going to say attractive and desirable up until their 60s and 70s, and it's not reality. And unfortunately, you have a large segment of the population that is going to end up as lonely dog moms or cat moms, cat women. You know, I mean, whenever I run into one of these women and we have a, shall we call it a debate, I always say, look, enjoy your cats. Enjoy your cats, because you're going to be alone, and no man wants to put up with this shit. No man wants to put up with a belligerent, troublesome woman. And so this woman has left her marriage, and, it's because she was selfish and she listened to the culture and the society that told her, you're a queen and you deserve everything in your Disney movie fantasy that you think you deserve, when in reality, you're just an average woman. You're just an average woman. And a lot of these women realize this too late after their marriage, after they've left the marriage and can't go back to their husband who was a good husband, who was a good father, who provided for them, provided safety, provided security, and they had someone to build a life and a legacy and to grow old with, and they threw it away. The average guy that these women were married to, they treated you well and took care of you, and you discarded him. You absolutely just discarded him. So, Resilient Man channel is not about hating women. Don't hate women. Actually, some women are wonderful. There are good women out there. It's like trying to find a needle in a needle stack, quite frankly, because they are few and far between. But many men in our society today are struggling with the fact of a society who has no use for them and doesn't want them. Over the past year, I had been going through my own divorce and stumbled across some really good YouTube channels that have significantly helped me in dealing with the challenges that I just listed, dealing with navigating, dealing with women and their problems in our society and the risk involved for the modern man. He really has to watch himself. But a few channels that I want to acknowledge and call out are Strong Successful Male, Odd Man Out, Better Bachelor, The Wall, Taylor the Fiend, and Entrepreneurs and Cars. These sites are specifically by men, and then I will call out two specifically that are done by women, and they really do a good job. They talk about men's issues. They seem to really understand the struggles that men have, and that men are really having a hard time in this female-focused society. But those two YouTube channels are Courtney Ryan and The Wingman, both of which I think are really quality. So what I thought I would do with this initial video for Resilient Man channel is share a little bit about who I am and how I've come to this place to start this channel. I really believe that I have a lot to share, and there's a lot that hopefully I can encourage a lot of men out there who are about to go through challenges such as divorce, or are dealing with parental alienation, or struggling in dating, or those type of things. And maybe I can offer some encouragement, and also the community that we build through Resilient Man offer some encouragement as well. So let me share a little bit about myself. So I dated my children's mom for 2 years prior to getting married in 2001. Our marriage lasted for 8 years, and I can best describe it as a continuous tug of war. I'm sure a lot of you men can relate to that description. You're in a marriage with a woman who, it really seems like her mission in life is to oppose you at every turn. Everything is second guessed, everything is questioned, and everything is a constant back and forth. In my case, I had come from I'd come up from a hard background, poor, where I always had to work for myself. I had to work very hard, very strong and self-sufficient. My ex came from the opposite, an entitled Ivy League trust fund background. Literally everything had been handed to her whole life. Now, I chose this woman. I have no one to blame but myself. So I don't, I'm not making any poor me or anything. But our marriage was a nonstop battle. We fought over all the usual things, finances, sex, the kids, family, you name it. I'm sure a lot of you men watching this can relate to this. It was the type of situation where you come home from work and you pull into the driveway and you just get a knot in your stomach because you really don't want to go inside. I mean, does that sound familiar? I mean, you're just like, ugh, this is just terrible. But so we had 2 children, a girl and a boy over the course of our 8-year marriage. I won't go into all the gory details, but we were divorced finally in late 2010. My ex was a stay-at-home mom during our marriage. And as you can imagine, I got my ass handed to me by the so-called family court system. Our custody arrangement was your typical, I got the kids every Tuesday night and every other weekend. Again, sound familiar to a lot of you guys out there? Over the next 6 years, I remained single and just casually dated, mainly focusing on me and my career and being a father when I had my children. Very actively engaged in my kids' lives. I did not want a serious relationship. I just wanted to do my own thing and really focus on that. So fast forward, in 2014, I met the woman who would eventually become my second wife. I should have learned my lesson from my first marriage, but as with a lot of men, I was hopeful and I believed that this woman was different. We dated for 2 years before we got married, and she was absolutely wonderful. She was attractive, very sexy. We got along very well. Just had a wonderful relationship. And she really seemed to set herself apart from the other women that I had dated for the previous 6 years. Up to this point, I had not introduced my children to any woman, not one, ever. So that they never met any of the women that I casually dated. After about 6 or 8 months of dating my ex, I truly felt this had lifelong potential. And I felt if I ever were to remarry again, this would be the woman, and she would make a great stepmother to my 2 children. Now, she had 2 children of her own. So our kids all ranged from 7 years old to 15-year-old. So 4 children total. After about 6 or 8 months, we both decided to introduce our children into the relationship, and it went over very well. The children got along very well. They meshed together as if they were siblings, had been siblings all along. And one of the things of significance that I will share with you is that I felt a lot of guilt for the divorce from my children's mother, in that they no longer had a mother and a father in the home. And I truly wanted to give that back to them. I wanted to return that normalcy, if you would, of having a mother and a father in the home, but back to my children. So that was a big factor in me remarrying. I had shared this with this woman as well. And I believe in hindsight, she kind of took that information and used it to manipulate me to represent herself as the woman that I was looking for, and I truly believe it. Now that we're divorced and I've had 2 years to, time to process, I truly believed I was duped. And I believe this is done a lot. Women, I've heard it said recently that the woman you're dating is just the representative of the person. you have to give it years and years and years to actually see the actual person come out. Now, don't misunderstand me. I take total and full responsibility for the decisions in my life. I have no one to blame but myself, and these were my decisions. So that is not what I'm saying. But a piece of the puzzle for myself and for a lot of you men out there is the fact that we can only work with the information that we're given. And the woman that you are with, you may only be seeing the representative. You only, the mask, and not the actual person. And so you really do need to take time. Now, in my case, I took 2 years, and I thought that was long enough. Quite frankly, it wasn't. I mean, personally, now I believe that that should be 5 years. Again, I'm not making excuses. I'm merely stating that there are situations where the woman can manipulate and be a chameleon, if you will, to make you think she is exactly what you're looking for when actually she's not. So after 2 years, we got married, and immediately all hell broke loose. My ex completely came unglued, and all of her emotional baggage came out. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could you not see this for 2 years? And yeah, I mean, believe it or not, some people are able to hide their reality for that long. And keep in mind, we didn't live together. So I didn't see her every day, all day, like you would when you live with somebody or that. Now, some of you guys are saying, well, shit, you should have lived with her. You should have figured that out. My personal belief was I did not want to live with somebody when we weren't married, especially with my children. I don't want to put them in that position. That's just my personal belief. And so that is what it is. But I believed that I had vetted her pretty well over 2 years. I was wrong. And I realized immediately after we got married that I had made a huge mistake. The first year of our marriage was horrendous. I mean, it was bad. When I tell you we had a major blowout at least once a week, I'm not exaggerating. She was a raving lunatic, and I didn't know what to do. I'm like, who the hell is this person? This is not the beautiful, sweet, compassionate, sexy, understanding woman that I dated for 2 years. And I didn't know what to do. I'm like, how do I explain this to my children? Should I get an annulment? What should I do? I didn't want another divorce. And I'm sure a lot of you watching this can relate to that. You're trying to figure this out because you want to have that stable family home for your children and for you, and to have that to share life together. But you're stuck in this miserable marriage, and you don't know what you should do to get out of it. And like with many of us, a lot of times, how many of you are in a marriage that is sprinkled with good times, that encourages you to continue on, even though the majority of the time you're miserable? But there's these little, a week or a day or maybe even a month or a few months that things are wonderful and things are going great, and you're thinking, all right, man, just keep plugging along, everything's going to be okay. That was my situation. I know a lot of you men watching this can relate to what I'm saying, and maybe even are in that current situation. What I should have done in hindsight was annulled the marriage the first month. And yeah, things were that bad. So fast forward, over the next 6 years of marriage, we had many ups and downs. I told her a few times that, we are incompatible. We should just do a do-it-yourself divorce and go our separate ways because we're miserable. And why put each other through this pain? But we didn't have children together, and we didn't have any real assets together, so we could fairly simply go our separate ways. And as you can imagine, she refused. And like all women refuse, because they know they've got you over a legal barrel. And so we continued on, and I'm sure a lot of you men watching this can relate. At any given time, if she would have said, look, you're right, let's do it, a do-it-yourself divorce and go our separate ways, I would have signed off on that in a heartbeat. I simply wanted out. You know, sound familiar to any of your situations out there? So fast forward to August of 22. I'm in the bathroom getting ready for work one Thursday morning, and she strolls in and says, I need to speak with you. So I come out, and she's sitting on the bed and proceeds to tell me that she's leaving me that weekend. She had found another home and to rent and was moving out. I was absolutely shocked. We literally had sex the night before. So I'm in shock, and we talked about it. She said she did not want a divorce. She just felt things were so bad and had been so bad for so long that the best thing to do would be separate, and we could work on our marriage from separate homes over the course of the next year. I told her that was ridiculous and was going to cause more problems in our marriage, especially financially. Incidentally, I had lost my job 2 weeks prior. So I had worked full-time during the day in sales, and then I also had a part-time job nights and weekends that I did as well. And I had lost my full-time job, so I was just working full-time. And my wife tells me she's walking out on me. So that was Thursday morning, and by Sunday afternoon, she was completely moved out, and she took almost everything in the house. And I've had some people say, well, why did you allow her to take all the furniture and practically everything in the house? And I say, well, look, I mean, our plan was not to get divorced. It was to work on our marriage separately and then come back and rejoin, reconnect in the same home. So it's like all of our stuff would still be our stuff. So that was the way I looked at it. Secondly, I didn't really give a shit about the furniture and all the housing because I figured if this doesn't work out, I'll simply replace that stuff at another time. And I did. Eventually, that's exactly what I did. So, and incidentally, the lease on the house that we were renting, I had just signed off to renew for one more year, and she had not signed as well. And so she was not on the lease, and that was by design. So she had been planning this. So she moves out. I had to scramble to get some roommates in the house to help me make ends meet. And of course, I did extensive background checks and that type of thing. But I have to tell you, having strangers move into your house is very strange. And I distinctly remember laying down to go to sleep when they had first moved in. I laid my head on the pillow and I thought to myself, I have strangers living down the hall from me. And then my very next thought was, she did this to me. And, you know, I tell you that because I'm sure you're in a similar situation where this person has told you, I love you, we're in this for life. And that's what I was told for years. And then this is what was done to me. I'm sure, how many of you can relate to a situation like that? So, over the course of the year, my roommates worked out well. They were good guys, and it actually turned out to be a blessing because what I charged them actually covered a lot of the expenses of the home, so it actually worked out to be a blessing. So, but over the course of the next year, so my wife and I, initially we were doing this like dating type thing, trying to navigate where we go from here. Our anniversary was in November, and so I took her on our anniversary trip like I always did. And as usual, I planned it, I paid for it, I did everything. She literally just got into the car and went on the trip like she did the entire marriage. I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that, but that was my situation. Anything like that, I always had to plan and pay for and do all of that. And she just simply got in. She used to joke about it, and after years, you start to relate to you start to resent it actually. So that was a running joke in our marriage. So we went on the anniversary trip in November. That went fine. Christmas comes. And she was supposed to come over Christmas Day for she and I to share Christmas, to have our personal Christmas, mid-afternoon, 2, 3 o'clock. She finally shows up at my house at 6:30 p.m. on Christmas. I mean, Christmas was over. She had left her husband alone all day long on Christmas. She had spent the day having Christmas with her daughters and her dad, and then finally comes over at 6:30 p.m. I was furious. We got into a fight. And of course, she's giving me the crocodile tears. I'm so sorry. We had to do Christmas, and then I was cooking, and I had to do all the cleaning up and blah, blah, blah. It was all bullshit. And it was just another example of how she had put others before her husband. But we tried, we finally calmed things down, and we tried to salvage Christmas and went on with that evening. So we get through New Year's, and towards the end of January, she starts allowing me to come over to her house to stay the weekend. And I use the word allow because her oldest daughter, who was 23, did not want me to come over. And so my wife would not let me come over to the house until her oldest daughter had left on Friday afternoon to go to her boyfriend's for the weekend, and then I could come over. Now, why did she do that? The weekend that my wife had moved out, I had come home at night from my part-time job. There were moving boxes in the garage, the flat kind you have to put together. I took them and threw them out into the yard because I was pissed that my wife was walking out on me. So the oldest daughter saw that the next day and said, "Oh, he's out of control, and I don't want him around me." It was bullshit. It was total bullshit excuse. But that's what she used. The point being, my wife allowed it, and she put her daughter as the priority, to not allow me come over. So there was that. But I put up with it because I'm trying to salvage my marriage. Sound familiar to a lot of you guys out there? Putting up with shit you normally probably never would have put up with. So this went on for 3 months into mid to late April. And so I did our taxes in April like I always did. And I Venmo'd her the majority of our refund to just try and help her out a little bit more financially. Now understand, our finances had been completely separated since just before August of 2022 when she walked out on me. I had not given her $1, not 1 cent the entire time that we were separated because she left the home, that was on her. But I did try and help her by Venmoing her the majority of the tax refund. In the text, I happened to mention, I got to pay my child support this week. Well, she texted me back and she started to insist that I not pay my child support and that I give her that money because she was in financial straits and struggling, that she, as my wife, should come before my children. Well, I told her to go to hell. And, it was just despicable, absolutely despicable. So this text messaging, this text argument went on from late April to the 1st of June, about 6 weeks. And she refused to back down. I refused to back down. And after about probably a week or two, I said, I'm done. I'm filing for divorce. And so, but I kind of kept that to myself. And then around the 1st of June was when I told her. The plan had originally been I would be moving back into her place. We would reconcile. We'd be a married couple again, living in the same home in July when my lease had finished up. Well, I told her that's not happening. I'm not moving in with you. And, I'm done. I'm filing for divorce. So, what happened was I then counseled with an attorney. He told me that even though we had separated in August of 22, our actual separation date was going to be April of 2023 per the laws of our state. And so I could not file for divorce until April of 2024, which I did. So fast forward April 2024, I filed for divorce, and we tried to serve her divorce papers for about 3 to 4 months and could not locate her. Every means possible, the sheriff's department, process server, certified mail, we tried it all. And what finally happened was we went through the process of our state, the letter of the law, and my attorney really did a great job. And to the point that we were able to petition the court for a hearing to file an affidavit and show we've tried to locate her, to serve her divorce papers. We cannot find her. Will you please grant him divorce? Which they did. So here recently, I was granted divorce, and I walked away completely scot-free. No alimony, no nothing. And, so I share my story, and this is what Resilient Man Channel is going to be about. That even though you're going through hell right now, and I know some of you guys are watching this and you're thinking, God, man, my situation is even worse. And I'm here to tell you, you may be contemplating divorce, you may be going through a divorce, or at the tail end, or just finished up. You're going to get through this. You are going to overcome this. You're going to move on with life, and you're going to thrive if you stay resilient and you focus on yourself in every aspect, all the positive aspects of your life. Your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, your financial health, your spiritual health, all those things. Those are the things that are going to carry you through, because your situation is going to come to an end at some point, and you're going to go on to have a great life. So, over the time that I was single, I purposely stayed single and I stayed celibate to ensure I didn't bring any more problems into my life. And, it enabled me to come through this challenge a better man instead of a bitter man. I'm healthy. I'm happy. I'm more happier than I've ever been. People tell me, they see it in my face, they see it in my vibe and in my spirit. So focus on becoming a better and stronger you. If your relationship is over, if your marriage is over, it is what it is, and you're going to have to move on, or you want to move on and have a good rest of your life, whatever that looks like based on your dreams and goals. So you'll get through these challenges, and it'll enable you to craft the life that you want. So welcome to Residual Man Channel. My hope, my aim is to help men as we navigate the various challenges with regard to relationships, to modern women in our society and culture. I hope that as you watch this, you were encouraged a little bit, that you learned something, and that I was able to help you in some small way. You're going to get through this, you're going to thrive and have a much better life. So there are many topics that I will be covering on Resilient Man Channel in the future, such as dating, marriage, child support, child custody, parental alienation, the many different challenges that we as men face in our society right now. With that, I ask that you please like and subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you on the next episode of Resilient Man. And I would also say, know your worth, protect your peace.